turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Mike.
I'm Phoenix.
And we are the Turntable Teachers, and class is officially back in session. And welcome back to the show. Happy New Year, everyone. Phoenix and I are back with another episode. And yeah, man, Happy New Year to you. We haven't actually had you on yet in 2021.
I know, dude. Happy New Year. It's so dope to be back. It's so great to put 2020 behind us. Mm-hmm. And we also had a lot of stuff planned for 2021. So I'm excited because this is really good. This is what kickstarts it for us right now. So
exactly.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited, and Happy New Year to you, Mike.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Of course, if you guys already know, we had graduation 2020 that I just finished up, and Sam and Phoenix will definitely be joining us in 2021 for graduation 20.
Oh yeah,
or graduation 2021,
yeah.
I should say. So that'll be really fun. But yeah, like you said, I'm really excited for a great year coming up. We have a lot planned, a lot to announce very soon. A lot just in the works, so please stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe to us, whether you are on YouTube or a podcast streaming service. Really helps us out. And you can also leave us a like and a comment, especially on YouTube. So really
hit the notification bell. That's what all the other YouTubers say, right? Hit the notification bell so that you guys can be up to date when we drop something. Mike's still dropping sick videos. Go run up the 2020 end of the year videos still, because those are still banger videos. Mike did his thing.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, but no, those were a lot of fun. I definitely wanted to recognize all the great music that we had in 2020, despite, again, the year was not great, obviously, but
right.
the music was, and I think even in a tumultuous year like that, that's when art really becomes very important. And I thought that just overall last year there was some amazing music, and definitely one thing we're going to be talking about on this episode is what we're looking forward to in 2021 in terms of music, like who we want to drop, who we maybe could expect to release an album or even music at all.
Right.
So that we have a lot to talk about today. We got a Jazmine Sullivan album review coming as well, and then of course this is, again, like I said, our first episode back with Phoenix and I as a duo. We're going to be doing this throughout 2021, and of course, make sure you go back and check out last week's guest speaker episode with Jordan Tariff. But today, I definitely want to kick off something the world found out on January 1st, or I think it was right before. I think it was actually New Year's Eve, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, MF Doom passed in October, and it was actually kept very much under wraps until the new year. So, Phoenix, I guess I'll start with you. I just want to hear your thoughts on MF Doom's legacy and really how Doom sits with you as an artist.
It's tragic. First of all, it's tragic and it's heartbreaking. I don't want to come on here and cap though, right? I wasn't the ultimate MF Doom fan,
Me neither.
But I think every hip hop head has to have a MF Doom phase. And every hip hop head, every backpacker, if you really say you like backpack rap or lyrical underground, kind of message focused rap, you have to have a phase where you go through MF Doom's catalog, because then it kind of informs you of why the rest of the sounds the way it does, honestly, because he was that influential, I think, in terms of being a figurehead for underground hip hop, and that influential in terms of keeping the kind of lyrical integrity he had and musical integrity. Kind of the whole mantra of Doom's music always felt like to me of I put on the mask in direct kind of rebellion towards mainstream music, and kind of what consumerism and with the expansion of hip hop, kind of how that influenced the music. And I'm sure we all know examples of how the sound of hip hop has changed as it's become more popular. It's become more of an industry and a business.
Right.
And Doom has always been the guy that's I don't know. He's stood solid. Can't speak right now, but he stood solid in that position, and the music was just was always very there's no way to describe it besides unique to him, to his voice, and consistent. It sounds honest. Besides And then in addition to that, I think probably the most compelling and interesting, not facade, but I don't even image. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the whole villain, the villain mask, the villain kind of theme, and the character building and almost world building that he does in his music. I think that's commendable no matter what, whether you like his music or not. If you kind of do some of the background and just like the kind of whole gist behind the mask, and it's more than just like a quirky kind of like 90s hip hop kind of thing. It's it was a real metaphor, you know what I mean? And I think that was the dopest part. That's obviously why we all love Doom. And it was heartbreaking for me to hear about him passing, and super eerie, but like kind of cool. I want to say that respectfully. The fact that he had passed on Halloween night kind of just seems like a weird, like bittersweet ending. You know what I mean? Because Halloween night, you know, where people already put on masks and costumes, just seems kind of funny that we lost somebody who in hip hop has a mask and has a costume on that night.
Yeah,
But,
that was actually interesting and a little bit symbolic. Do we know how he passed? Has it come out? Like how?
I don't think it's come out officially, but I've heard on the internet that he was having health problems for a while, and it might have been something connected to his heart. But albeit what I've heard is that it just wasn't sudden. It wasn't super sudden for their family. Okay. I think it was something they were kind of preparing for a while. But don't take my word for it. I don't think we've gotten much information.
Yeah, that's why I asked it, because I wasn't sure what you had heard, because it seems like it was pretty under wraps in terms of Doom. And I mean, I agree with a lot of the sentiments that you had about Doom. I too was not really like the biggest Doom stan, but I certainly had my Doom phase.
Have to if you love hip hop.
Yeah, and over the years, I grew to, even if Doom wasn't my most listened to artist or anything like that, over the years, I really grew to respect and like appreciate what he was and what he brought to the table, because like you said, he was such an influential character. We actually had Lord Felix from Van Buren on the show very early in 2020, and he wears a mask too, or a visor really, and he actually talked about a little bit about how Doom like spoke to him. And I think, you know, he's not the only one. I think you can see the influence locally here and just in Boston and in Massachusetts, but then you can see the influence outside of that too, just in the hip hop spectrum. And I think for Doom, what he stood for beyond anything else was, like you kind of said, that almost anti-consumerism, feeling. He had that image, and in his music, he was very much so kind of like, you can be, kind of, for lack of a better word, I guess, like nerdy and almost like a hip hop kind of. He was a hip hop head that wasn't at the time, like in the 90s. It was much more of like the gangster rap out, in the West Coast, and then some of like the boom bap in the East Coast. And MF Doom, if you didn't fit either of those molds, Doom was perfect, because he was, and I think it was good for anybody that was a little more artsy and a little bit more eccentric and sort of just out there. He was more of like, somebody that if you didn't fit either of those molds, like, he was perfect for that. You know what I mean? And just kind of like being a different sort of figure in hip hop. That's why I think with Doom, his legacy is going to go down as probably one of the most influential hip hop artists of all time, because I think that's where the experimental nature kind of comes in. Like, I don't think you get a JPEG Mafia or a Denzel Curry, or, I mean, I even know like a mutual friend of ours, like Taha, like he loved Doom so much as well. Like, I feel like there's certain artists that get into that experimental nature of their music. It really kind of rooted from Doom in a sense. And the album to me that's always stood out so much that was Mad Villainy with Madlib, because Madlib is just one of my favorite producers ever. He's up on the wall. I got him with Bandana and Freddie Gibbs over there. Like,
he's still going crazy.
Exactly. And like, I always loved Madlib's production, and it's interesting, believe it or not, I didn't really get like I'd heard Mad Villainy over the years, and I always liked it. But for some reason, this past summer, actually, I was out. It's weird how this happened, but I was out in my yard just doing yard work, and for some reason, like in my shuffle on Spotify, it must have passed like whatever album I was listening to, and a Doom song came up. and I was like, oh, I haven't listened to MF Doom in forever. That was my thought process. And I'm like, oh, I got to go back and listen to Mad Villainy. And for some reason this summer, Mad Villainy clicked for me in a way that it never had. And or maybe I just forgotten about I've forgotten about it. Maybe I hadn't listened to it in a while. And I was like, oh, why don't I listen to this more? You know what I mean? Like even just some of the beats and production. Yeah. So that's the kind of hip hop he has, right? Because I think any good hip hop or any good songwriting in general always rewards closer attention, right? Like or a second listen, a third listen. I think no matter what, all of the good music you like are, especially when it's like kind of lyric centric hip hop. What really proves that it's good is when you come back and you're like, wow, I just got what he said. Right. Wow, that was a reference to a comic book, this really abstract comic book. Or wow, I just realized. What happens with me, I find a lot, is that like there's always a punchline I love a lot in a song, whether it's Doom or Kendrick or anybody lyrical. Always a punchline that kind of really stands out, but then maybe you go back a second, third, fourth time, and then you just kind of connect the 4 connecting bars prior to that punchline. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because the punchline sits in a pocket that's clearly a punchline, so you kind of digest that quicker. But definitely with Doom, like especially like Rhymes Like Dimes is one of my favorite tracks of all time, and like there are all the punchlines you kind of just know word for word after listening to it for so long, and you just forget about some of the things that set up those punchlines, or even some of the small bars that maybe could have been punchlines but just weren't put in that pocket, and you kind of have sung second, like subconsciously without really connecting it. Doom has tons of that kind of content where you're like, wow, when I actually just recognize what he said right now, just took this from an 8 to a 9 or a 9 to a 10. He has a lot of that in his catalog. Yeah, and admittedly, like I need to go back even further into some of his stuff because I was never. I think I listened to it a long time ago. Who's a big MF Doom guy and who kind of inspired me to like really want to start like sharing my opinions on music and things like that was obvious. I mean, a lot of us he's kind of the godfather in the sense of this, but like if Fantano and the Needle Drop, he freaking loves Doom. The Dead End hip hop guys, I used to listen to them like growing up and when I was a little younger, and like they always talked about so much. Yeah, me too. And so shout out to them obviously, because like again, I used to consume their content like crazy. Still do a little bit here and there, but I definitely think that they kind of inspire me to be like, oh yeah, I can jump on here and talk about music too. Like I have as much passion about it as they do. 1,000%. And yeah, so like for them, like they always talked about Doom all the time, especially to Fantano, like the Czarface, what's it called? Duos that they used to do with Czarface and. Just a lot of those albums that I never really like fully fleshed out and listened to, or maybe I listened to them when I was too young to like really appreciate and understand. I think because like I said, it was weird being in my mid-20s. Mad Villainy clicked for me in a way that it never had before. That's really funny you say that because I also feel that. I actually, I went back to Mad Villainy after hearing about the death of MF Doom, right? Whether it's just to reminisce about the music, or honestly I wanted to like go run those streams up. Like I want him to be supported because he deserves it. But it's funny you say that because I loved Mad Villainy when I first heard it, and I have my phase in my dark. It's definitely around these kind of seasons too, when it's kind of wintry. I get my phase where I go back into the lyrical, like real cold, stuff. Exactly. And But I hadn't gotten back to Mad Villainy in a while, and I go back after his passing, and there was a lot of other stuff that resonated with me too. And whether even if it was lyrics I remembered or would always kind of, even whether it's songs that I know and love or some songs that I had forgotten about, there was a lot of stuff that resonated differently for me. Exactly. At this age, which I think is amazing, and that's again the testament to really great timeless music. Yeah, no, and that is what I think sets Doom apart, was he was such a thinking man's MC, your favorite rapper's favorite rapper type deal. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you saw how many rappers were coming out and just being like, hey, like, Doom was so influential to me and so important to this game and everything like that. So no, I mean it's definitely very upsetting, and I think we're getting to that age though where it's like we're gonna start to see some of our favorite like artists as kids or things like that. Like I don't think we're there quite yet, but I think this is just kind of the beginning of it, stages of it, where it's like, it's going to be one of those things like you'll remember where you were when you heard, like, for example, like when Michael Jackson died, you know what I mean? Like Definitely. I can remember where, even though I didn't grow up with Michael Jackson, right? But I even remember where I was and like when I heard that, you know what I mean? And I just knew him as such a figure. So I think there's going to be like certain artists like this that, eventually we're going to be like, whoa, like, yeah. And that begs another question too. It's like, I feel like we appreciate artists a lot more when they're dead versus when they're alive half the time, because it's like, again, and I was happy this summer to have gone back to just happened to stumble upon Mad Villainy again. And again, I listen to so much music. There's sometimes I just forget about certain albums. Like I'm just like, oh my God, how did I forgot about this. I haven't heard this in months or years or whatever it is. So like, it was so fun for me over the summer to get back. And it's funny you mentioned that you're getting into it a little bit more in the winter, whereas like, for some reason it clicked for me in the summer, even though it's definitely not a summer album. It's definitely not a summer album at all. But like, and then I don't know, and then just going through the track listing, even though he's not even on the song, a song like Sick Fit with that insane instrumental, I just love so much. Like there's just, again, it was more nostalgic for me to go back to an album like that and just really sit with it and appreciate it in a way that I hadn't before. So I mean, Doom I think is one of those kind of pillar hip hop figures that I think will go down as, one of like the founding fathers of this kind of new era of experimental, artistic, kind of a different level of like artistic hip hop, alternative hip hop, if you will.
1000%. I think it's already kind of set in stone. I think his legacy's already there. And I hope kind of actually what you mentioned with Michael Jackson, when I was young, I was like 8 or 7 or 9, maybe 10. I don't know. When Michael Jackson died, I remember being in my kitchen when I was younger, and I think maybe
I was in my kitchen too.
That's funny.
I was watching on this small. Back then, like the TVs weren't flat screen. I think I was like an 8th grade or like a freshman in high school.
Right.
And I remember this specifically. It was during the summer, and I had a summer league basketball game, and I'm pretty sure it was going into my freshman year, and. It's weird how I remember all these weird things, but like I watched it on this tiny little TV in my kitchen back in the day, and then I was on my way to going to a basketball game, and I remember it was a cloudy day. It wasn't very sunny. It was a dreary day, and it's weird that I remember certain things like that. And so it's funny, like you mentioned. So I feel like now, like I'm always gonna remember like hearing the MF Doom, like it was because it was so like it was New Year's Eve. Like I was like
that was shocking. That was shocking.
It
for
was.
Sure. But after Michael died, like I feel like for me growing up, he was always the butt of the joke. You know what I mean? Like for me growing up, I feel like as a little kid, obviously I was really young, but I didn't have enough or the proper respect for Michael Jackson, although he was still so culturally ubiquitous. Like I knew who his name, knew who he was, knew why he was famous. But never had enough music played around me to where I was like really invested in the music. And then after he died is kind of when you see, like you're saying, nobody really. It's like everybody loves you more till after. Everybody loves you more when you're dead. Kind of like Biggie says, you're nobody until somebody kills you. Which is a really eerie, scary lyric from Big. But I just remember with the whole world kind of reflecting on Michael Jackson and, everybody grieving and also celebrating his life and then celebrating his music. That's what put me onto, and I think a lot of people my age, onto Michael Jackson's music, right, is like it was a kind of a posthumous like shift in the way that we all looked at him. Because before that, he was, because of his accusations and the controversy surrounding him, I just didn't have the right narrative. You know what I mean? I didn't have the right narrative created around him. I had something that was, off of the South Park episodes where they make fun of him. Right. Like that was kind of the image that was in my head for Michael Jackson. And I know this is something that's been talked about before, so I'll speed it up. But I hope that same kind of thing happens for Doom. You know what I mean? I hope there was hundreds of thousands of kids out there who didn't hear about MF Doom, but yet are big Tyler, the Creator fans. And when you hear Tyler, the Creator and Earl Sweatshirt, grieving over MF Doom, I hope there was a bunch of kids out there like, why is, kind of like you're saying, my favorite rapper's favorite rapper just passed. Let me go look into that. And I hope that really opened up and broadened people's horizons to his music, because and I would assume that it's happened, because that's the same thing that kind of happened with me with Michael Jackson. So I hope that's happened, because I just think he deserves that. You know what I mean? He deserves that kind of recognition, and he's kind of one of those things, purposefully probably, and intentionally. He kind of has always been low key, the kind of epitome of underground. But I hope now, after his passing, and after we had that moment where everybody was reflecting, I hope there are some new Doom fans. And if you are a new Doom fan, let us know.
That's yeah, new or old. Like, drop us a comment. Let us know your
Definitely.
favorite Doom songs, favorite Doom projects or moments and things like that. Like, for me, like I said, definitely Mad Villainy. But I love what you said just now, because it's so true. It's like, I didn't think of it that way as much, where it's like, this could be an opportunity to even get people more acquainted with Doom that never were. And, really, or remind us that, like, oh, hey, Doom has a catalog that,
Right.
I haven't listened to in years, like, or whatever it is. And speaking of Earl and Tyler, did you see that video that's been circulating with when they meet Doom and they're like
freaking
oh
out
my
when
God,
they're
they're
meeting
freaking
Doom.
out. Yeah.
Well, without him, there's no them, And I think
That's
Doom's
so
in a
true. I
similar
know,
place.
exactly. He's
where,
another guy I
like,
forgot. Yeah.
Kid Cudi, you know what I mean? Like, I usually, I'm the guy who will always chalk it up like, if it wasn't for Kid Cudi, like, I'm the guy that's always like that. But Doom is a real the predecessor, or whatever. What's the one that comes before?
Predecessor, yep.
Like,
Yeah,
predecessor.
you got it.
In terms of that niche, or that niche, however you want to say it, of the rapper who doesn't fit the mainstream mold, which at the end of the 90s towards the 2000s, and still now, obviously, was much more like, gangster, street, hyper masculine, you feel me, like very aggro type stuff. And like, Kid Cudi, I think, gets a lot of credit for being somebody who like just stepped out of that mold while keeping it hip hop, and he inspired a lot of kids to be themselves. In the same way that I credit him with kind of other people in the new school now. Like, without Kid Cudi, there wouldn't be any of them. I definitely solidly feel that, like, without MF Doom, like, I think he's the predecessor even for Kanye. Not to say that they're musically the most similar, but in terms of a figure, a rapper, is sticking with their narrative and their truth and their story, you know what I mean? Not kind of just camouflaging themselves into what was happening around them, and then serving a lot of listeners who didn't ideally or you match up with like the typical rap listener. Like, Doom was right there, whether it's the nerdy ass references or just like the really dense material that like you have to literally just be into the music in order to really digest, you know what I mean? Because
Exactly.
casually throw on MF Doom in the background, it's going to go over your head. You know what I mean? So that's why I recommend getting in a dark room, being really sad, and
just get super depressed before you listen to Doom. Just,
right.
Just break up with your significant other. Friggin'
yeah, dude. And
no,
he's one of those,
Yeah. No, but like, even when you like, I didn't even think of like Tyler. Like, he's another part. Like, there's just so many. Like, again, I was thinking more along the lines of like a JPEG or David Denzel Curry. But yeah, guys like Earl, Tyler the Creator. I mean, you're not getting those guys at all if you don't without
At
Doom.
all.
And again, Cudi, I think, is in the same mold where you're not getting like a Travis Scott. You're not going to get a Juice WRLD. You're not going to get those types of artists without a Kid Cudi. But I agree. I think without Doom and those types of artists, I think even Tribe Called Quest a little bit has some place in that too.
100%.
For sure, for these types of artists.
Tribe Called Quest might be even the more mainstream version of that, because they are able to cross over mainstream, where Doom's music is so gritty and weird, and he keeps it like that all the time.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation. And another guy too that I feel that I can very vividly remember when he passed was actually I was with our producer, Sam. I was living with him at the time. Actually, he's been a friend of mine for a very long time. But when Mac Miller passed away was another one, and like, because I was somebody that I vividly remember kids just being played nonstop through my friend group, through really when we were all in high school. Like that was kind of he was like the hot, hip hop artist or rapper at that time, like him and Wiz. I feel like I would just remember all those different mixtapes and projects. And I just remember Sam and I sitting in our living room for like a half an hour, 45 minutes. We threw on, I think like we shuffled like Mac Miller songs, and we just listened to Mac for 45 minutes. We didn't say a word. And he would definitely attest to this too. He was like, we didn't speak for 45 minutes, just like so solemn and just like, wow, like this is one of those like pillar moments of like artists that we grew up with that is now not here. And so when Doom died, it was more for me like wow, the culture just kind of lost somebody. You know what I mean? Because I again, even though I was never like a Doom stan, I completely understood and heard like and knew that he was such a figure, and of course liked some of his music for sure. Need to get a little bit more familiar with some of it because there's just so much of his. But with Mac, I always grew up with his progression, and just Mac Miller was somebody that. And I think Nipsey Hussle was a bit of the same too. I kind of put Nipsey Hussle in the same category as like a Doom, where it was like I didn't get more acquainted with Nipsey until after he passed, versus like I had heard certain songs and liked some of his music, like his Crenshaw mixtape I had heard when it came out, liked that. But Nipsey wasn't a guy that I was like on from the get. I was like, I was stan,
and that's most people. That was most people.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just again, it's an interesting conversation to how. And again, even like an artist that we've had on before who just dropped an album kind of talking about this was Hero the MC. Shout out him. He's a Roxbury, Massachusetts artist. And he had an album kind of dedicated to Guru and Rakim, because those are like big, influences for him. And, he has a lot of that commentary on his album is very much like, we need to love, our artists while they're here. And again, it's a hard concept, but there's something about this posthumous, like once you're dead and gone, like all of a sudden, like the popularity seems to rise. But again, that could be a good thing with, some of these younger listeners that don't really know Doom. They're just like, oh, Tyler the Creator, oh, Denzel, Earl Sweatshirt, JPEG Mafia, like whoever you want to kind of put in that mold of like Doom kind of, the guys that kind of followed Doom and followed that blueprint a little bit. So it's interesting.
Definitely.
And,
Definitely. Well, the scary thing about Nipsey, actually, I had something that was similar to like your Doom stories, that like I wasn't a huge Nipsey fan probably until like a year before he died. Like I had, that's when he was gaining a lot more social media popularity and kind of making some more crossover tracks. And then I went back and listened to a lot of his Crenshaw mixtapes, and then Victory Lap dropped, and I loved Victory Lap, and when I saw it was getting nominated, it was amazing,
really good.
And it was only so long after that he had gotten killed, and I was just glad that I was able to enjoy his music and enjoy him while he was here a little bit before the wave, of all the reactions after he passed. That one was like kind of eerie to me though too, because it was like somebody who I had just got on recently before he had passed, and it was really I started buying in, and I was like, I want to see this guy win.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's an even kind of a different experience than either one. Like growing up with Max, seeing the progression versus like, heard Doom, but liked his stuff, wasn't like a stan, but liked respected him, yada yada yada. Versus like someone you just get onto and you have all this hope for, and then
it was really sad, very 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 sad.
Yeah, I didn't really love Victory Lap or get into it as much until after he passed. So again, that was like, and then I was like, wow, like how did I miss this? And then, but is there that bias too of like now he's gone that all of a sudden I love it? Like I don't, you know what I mean? But I think part of it too is like I hadn't really fully heard it
exactly.
As well, like the whole project. Regardless, like I'd heard a couple individual songs. But, like Dedication with Kendrick Lamar. I was like, oh, Kendrick, like because at that time I was very much like. Kendrick Lamar? Oh, okay.
Of course.
Boom. Like anything with Kendrick, I'm going to listen to. So, shame on, not shame on me per se, but like, I guess there is so much music out there, but it's again, it's an interesting conversation, but I mean, in kind of how the posthumous, reactions usually can go, but it's a very, very tragic moment for them. And I think for the whole hip hop world and music world in general. So,
and it was just the freaking icing on the cake for 2020, man. It was
That too.
ridiculous.
That too. Where it's like, wow, like we're finally trying to get out of this year, and then right
Yeah.
before midnight we have to hear more bad news. It's like, wow, great.
I guess it fits. I guess
Seriously,
it
kind of
fits. It's
fits the 2020
consistent.
mold.
If there's
Yeah.
one thing 2020 had, it was a consistent aesthetic.
Of just solemn, just tragic
Sad
moments,
and trash.
all of it, man. But anyway, so again, rest in peace and rest in power to MF Doom, and again, definitely all thinking about his family and friends and the hip hop community.
And rest in peace to all the other rappers and musicians that we've lost in 2020 or in just the past couple of years.
Yeah.
I think we've honestly gone through a very unique stage in hip hop where we're seeing more and more people go, whether it's untimely endings or if we're just getting to that stage in our lives where it's happening, whether it's naturally.
Right.
But I think it's still been an unexpected and a uniquely kind of sad couple of years in terms of who we're losing in hip hop.
Pop Smoke too, like obviously,
Yeah.
and Juice World. Those we lost them in 2020. I mean, yeah. I mean, hopefully that 2021 has a little less of that for sure. You know what I mean? But
Well, rest in power, rest in peace. I don't want to get too sad. Let's celebrate them. Let's celebrate
Exactly,
them. Go out, listen
I'm
to
with you.
MF Doom, stream Mad Villainy, stream Czarface, stream it all.
of it. Danger Mouse, right? All that
Also
good stuff.
good.
I don't know how I forgot we forgot to talk about Danger Mouse. I love that album too.
Yeah.
Hey, leave us a comment. Like I said, let us know what were your favorite MF Doom memories, projects. What was your take on MF Doom? And if you haven't heard him, definitely go stream his music. We're gonna be right back. We're gonna take a short break, but when we return, we have a Jazmine Sullivan album review that I am really excited to get into. I know Phoenix is too. So I'm going to take a quick break, word from our local sponsor, and we will be right back. If you're a content creator like me, you know you're a perfectionist, especially when working with audio. You want it to be as crisp, clean, and really clear sounding as possible. And if you're an artist looking for a quality sound engineer, you have to check out Mixed by Hex. Hex is a South Shore, Massachusetts artist, producer, and reputable sound engineer, and also the host of our mini-series, Mixing Tips with Hex. Handing your song off to someone can be a scary process, but at Mixed by Hex, they offer multiple pricing plans, all with a specific number of free revisions. That way, you never have to worry about losing your say in the final product. And right now, Mixed by Hex is offering a free sample mix. That's right, you can hear your first mix of your track before even paying a dime. So I don't know what you're waiting for. Head over to www.mixedbyhex.com to get your free sample mix and check out their pricing options. And make sure you reference us, the Turntable Teachers, in your inquiry. Now, let's get back to the show. And we are back. Thanks for tuning back into the show. And we have a Jazmine Sullivan Heaux Tales album review for you guys. Speaking of some really good music that is kicking off in 2021, we definitely wanted to talk about this album. Shout out to you, man, because you put me onto this thing. So,
You're slacking. You're slacking,
slack,
bro. Michael's sleeping on it, and it was a project that I knew you would love. Like I've only known you for so long, but I feel like I'm getting a better sense of your music taste, and it's good music. So I knew you would love it, or I hope you do.
Well, yeah, we're gonna find out what I feel about it.
Yeah.
And at the time when we talked and you had put me onto this, and we obviously decided that we were going to talk about it, I was very deep into the graduation 2020 stuff, so I was very embedded in like listening, to, like still recapping all the 2020 music, like listening to it, all that. So I wasn't like fully really into like, okay, what has just dropped? And this missed my mark. And when you had mentioned it to me, you're like, oh, Jazmine Sullivan dropped like an amazing project. And I'm looking on Spotify, and I think it just released like a couple days prior, and the numbers for it were ridiculous. Like I know that Jazmine Sullivan's a talented artist. I've always heard her. Like I think my initial introductions to her were always like on like those old Wale albums, right? She always would do the hooks on those types of albums, but I never like heard like a full project, I felt like from Jazmine Sullivan. And then you put me onto this, and I'm like seeing all the numbers and seeing how good it's doing, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm definitely sleeping, missing something. Like, what do I got? I got to bump this thing.
I mean, well, she was huge, and she's an older act, not in terms of her age, but like in terms of how long she's been on the
she's been
scene.
around.
She's been on the scene for a while, and I think we all remember her from that, legendary busting out the windows out your car. You know what I mean? And so when she came in the game, like, she was huge. She was solidified, at least as like a real R&B, like, I don't even know how to say it, but like as a technical singer, she's been blowing us away for a while now, which is why I think, because she kind of had this hiatus like through the 2010s, and I think that's why when she comes back with this project, we're all listening, right? Because we already know what she can do, and we've kind of been missing that for a while, anyways. But I think down to like the cover art, the title, the concept of the album, and then the singing on this thing, the songwriting, she came back like clearly with like a synthesized like message, you know what I mean?
Yes, very much.
If that's the word I'm looking for, but like
cohesive. I feel like is the word.
cohesive, yeah. Cohesive,
An absolutely cohesive project.
Or just concise is kind of what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? If it really felt like, and it's not a long project, but there's still a good amount of it's 32 minutes runtime with some skits in here. But I think going through the album, it feels dense while also feeling light. Like, you know what I mean? And
it's interesting. Yeah, it feels longer than 32 minutes to me.
Right, definitely.
Reason.
And 32 minutes is including the skits. It feels like there's a lot of music in here. And that's why I'm saying it's concise in that way, because there's every track has its message, and then it's just on to the next one with a skit to kind of support that and support the overall theme of the album, and then it's back into another track that was clearly thoughtful, and it all just resonates because it seems so honest. But I'm glad you got on it, dude, because I still remember, like, when I got the chance, it always feels good to put your friend on to some music when it's going to hit. Like, not when it's absolutely. Like, oh, you need something new to listen to, maybe I can throw this out. But, like, when it's finna hit, and you're like, oh, buddy, do I got something for you?
It hit, man. Just the smooth, soulful nature of this project alone, just the aesthetic, the sonic appeal of it, for me, amazing. I absolutely adore this project. It is easily, I mean, that's not to like spoil the whole rest of the review, but like it's very early. We're only, when this is coming out, I think it's like early February or like maybe late January, whatever it is. But it's got to be early contender for one of the best albums of the year. Yeah. I would be very much, again, that's so early to say that, but I would be very surprised. We would have to be a pretty freaking amazing year for music.
It would have to be a strong-ass year.
Strong year for this not to even be an honorable
Lauryn
mention.
Hill would have to drop for me to forget about this project.
It's a little reminiscent of Lauryn Hill now that you're kind of mentioning it. Just not enough, but there's a little bit of touch in that where it's like it's very empowering, especially for not only women but women of color, and it's just really it's a statement, man. This album's a statement.
1,000%.
It really is. And like going off of just the title, and it's funny because obviously it's Heaux Tales, but it's spelled Heaux, and I was kind of like, I had to Google it because I was like, or look it up because I was like, what does that even mean? Because I mean, you listen to the album, you get it, you understand, like, I guess the premise of what she's going for, like, just to kind of spark note the whole kind of idea of the project is more or less of like, the equality or the inequality, I should say, of like the double standards with women and men when it comes to sex and sexual relationships and just the dating scene. I feel like in America during this time, this era, right? Like, there's the sense where like, if a woman is promiscuous, sleeps around, etc., she's considered a hoe or a whore or whatever you want to call it, versus a man, like, even though he can be considered a player, like sometimes that actually has a good connotation to it, like that just kind of that contrast of like, and how it doesn't make a ton of sense, that again, that double standard. Other artists have touched upon it too, like, but not for a full project. I feel like this. I mean, maybe I could be wrong. I'm sure that there is, but
of course, I'm sure there's a lot of artists who have tried this, but right, it's always different when there's the artist that does it and really pulls it off.
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick, I just want to look. I looked up. It's actually on Urban Dictionary. This is actually a Cajun variation for whore, hoe, or whatever. So it's funny. Like. So again, I guess it means the same thing. I was very curious. I was like, I didn't understand what this maybe meant, but apparently it's not. It's like an Urban Dictionary thing. And I think that
I think it could have been that, or I think it could have also just been a cool way for her to make Ho kind of seem a little bit more classy. Even with it's just I'm not a hoe, I'm a hoe with the HEAUX. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It even comes through like on the skits, and which is interesting because I'm not really a big fan of skits. I mean, they have to be purposeful, like A Good Kid, Mad City, like those types of skits are great. Obviously, right? Just an example I can see as well, but like
as an example, some of the best skits of all time.
Maybe right, exactly. But I love how she makes these, or she calls these tales instead of skits, and I think it kind of gives it such a. It really helps to convey like the message and the meaning she's going by, obviously, and I think it gives it a lot more context, right? Because it's different examples of this basically happening, right? Where either a man is taking advantage of a certain one of these women's tales, right, or they're being perceived in a certain way because I think literally in the first tale. Quote unquote, obviously, in Antoinette's tale, Antoinette, whoever Antoinette is, I'm not sure, but talks a little bit about, how, women are just as sexual beings as men. And it's just, that's kind of for them to, be so discriminated against and sort of being viewed in the kind of these negative lights for that. Again, just it kind of goes off of the juxtaposition of if a man is seen as promiscuous, like it's not as negative, right? So I loved obviously the tales. I thought they fit in really well, and they all kind of brought a different dynamic to the album. Like even one of the tales, I believe it was Rashida's, I want to say, where I was talking a little bit about like I think that was a lesbian couple or whatever, and she ends up cheating on her significant other and things like that. So it kind of even and then sort of like her like not trying to come to terms with like how this happened or how she was able to do this, and she's like, I loved this person so much, but I still just did it anyway. I don't know why I did. Like,
when she says like I don't know why, or like when she's like kind of at like one of those when she's at a loss for words, like I don't know why I did it. I wish I couldn't have. You know what I mean? Like that's when it's just so profoundly honest. You know what I mean?
And that's what I think I love about this project so much, just off the bat, is not only the idea and the sentiment behind it, but then like how it was structured, especially with the quote unquote tales, where I mean they're skits, but I love that they're called tales. I think that really adds like a beautiful dimension to this project. So, and then of course
1000%, it kind of supports like this feeling, right? Like almost like an anthology, like of different people, good right? Point. And I think that's kind of what she's going for, like almost like it's like little tales and fables of these different women in different capacities and exploring their promiscuity and also trying to give themselves the right self-talk, you know what I mean? And also confronting some things. I forget exactly which tale or skit it is, but when there's the one woman who's like, listen, if you don't got money, I can't be with you. You know what I mean? And I think that's like one of those things that's like, that's the thing we've heard before, right? You feel me? Where people are trying to get the bag and
exactly.
Or you know what I mean? Especially a lot of women in hip hop, they're up front like, yo, if you don't got bread, like can't rock with you because I got a certain lifestyle I'm trying to maintain. But then to go to pull another layer farther than that, like, oh, of course it's probably stems from my childhood where I didn't have anything. And I made it up in my mind that if I'm gonna, when I grow older, I'm gonna have something. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? And
exactly
that kind of reflection, I think, is oftentimes like the perspectives of it all that get left out. You know what I mean? Of the music, because the songs, especially when it's on a club record, you feel me, or like a real party type record, that's not the content we're looking for to support or kind of explain all those actions. But for her to then get down to just a real honest, open, and kind of genuine and authentic skit, right? Like it doesn't sound like these were skits that were written down on paper. These sounds like real voicemails that were hitting her phone.
Yeah, exactly. And even then again, even like Ari Lennox, like her tale is more or less talking about.
Her tale is amazing.
it was great because she talked about another dynamic where it was like she kind of allowed the man that she was with to like dictate her life, and then she just kind of got wrapped in sort of like the physical, like their physical connection, instead of like the entire kind of spectrum of the relationship. She was focused so much more on just that aspect of it, and how it was a detriment to her, detriment to like, you know, her psyche, all of that. Just it ruined the relationship, and her inability to kind of see the big picture. And I feel like, I mean, that's not only like a women thing. That's, I mean, that can happen to men too. But
1,000%.
But I do feel as though that men can sort of take a little bit, sometimes can take advantage of that in a different way. It's a little more destructive at times when men do it. And again, not to say that there aren't women out there that, you know, are taking advantage of men. It goes both ways and vice versa. But I mean, this is a different. But again, there's, like I said a little earlier, it's that societal stigma that is attached to this, and I think that's the aim of this project, is kind of break down some of those stigmas and be like, hey, can't we talk about this from like from a human sort of perspective rather than like a gender perspective? You know what I mean? Because it's like a physiological and psychological nature of humans they're trying to talk about, convey, versus just this. Why does it have to be a gender thing? So I loved, and again, it's very in the now. I think it's an important conversation, and hence why I'm glad you wanted to not only for me to listen to the album, but really again talk about it too.
And I love that it's a wide array of different representations and like different capacities in which either a woman would feel like she's a hoe, or feel like she's being treated like a hoe, or other people embracing their lifestyle that they want out of life, whether regardless of how you're going to label it, or they could care less of whether or not you label them a hoe. You feel me? Like that's just it's definitely super insightful, and was an amazing listen to kind of get to some of the tracks just like vocally. Jazmine Sullivan does not miss. She does not miss. Pick Up Your Feelings is ridiculous. Even right in the third track, she lets you know from the get-go, I'm not playing with y'all. She is finna sing, and I think it's intentional that she brought on, you know, like her features are three of the most competent, you know, singers that we have in today's age, right? Her, absolutely. Anderson .Paak, and Ari Lennox. Ari Lennox, for me particularly, is right there. Like, if we could have a little Lauryn Hill, it would be Ari Lennox. And but like, I think Jazmine Sullivan intentionally put these people on there to continue to support and maintain the certain quality that she has. But it really, at the end, ultimately, like, just she outshines everybody to me vocally when she's there. I just think that says a lot when you're also performing against her, you know what I mean, or Anderson .Paak or Ari Lennox, because they're not to be played with. You feel me? Like, they're not to be played with. But she goes on here and she puts on a clinic, dude.
It literally does. And Pick Up Your Feelings, I think, is again a great example, like the best example of the vocal range that she has, because especially in the hook, like I couldn't believe some of the low notes that she was hitting, and then the higher ones. It was crazy, and the powerful aspect and passion that was coming from her voice. It's incredible. It really reminded me, very reminiscent of like some older, like Destiny's Child, or even like, and then vocally more or less like that. And then the mood and ambiance kind of gave me more of like almost like older, like 2000s Usher a little bit. And I loved that hi-hat combo. I thought the pianos and strings and
some of that
were
beat
really
selection, I can hear the Usher.
Bit, right?
Wow,
like, can't you kind of like listen to like a song like You Got It Bad and kind of hear a little bit of that? Or what's the song with Alicia Keys that he did a long time ago? Started when we were younger, you were mine. My Boo. That's right. I had to sing it. My Boo. Yeah. It had that little bit of like mood to it, and like sort of sonic.
My Boo is a banger.
Right. It gave that off. But the crazy part is it was Usher and Alicia Keys playing off of each other. This is just Jazmine Sullivan. Just her. And my goodness, she just I loved this song. Loved this song.
That range you're talking about is so real, and it's very, very like evident that she can go high or low. And I think at least me coming into it again, kind of knowing her from Bust the Windows at Your Car and some of the other kind of one-off things I've seen her do throughout the years after that. She's always had a very powerful voice. She's always had a lot of presence on tracks. So I think those are the parts that I expected to be good, and she delivered on that. But when she like the track with Ari, on it is ridiculous, and she goes up and down, you know what I mean, from being like very powerful in your face to like very sexy, sleek, high falsetto kind of, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
It had a nice, it was a really nice, like slow tempoed, very moody song. And I thought the grooves with their vocals, I thought they mixed really nicely with that instrumental and that production. Interestingly enough, I almost felt like I could have heard her on this song a little bit more than I would have Ari Lennox. But I thought it was interesting that she put Ari on this one, because I think it in a way, too, it actually more or less challenged them in a way to like make this a song like this work, because I didn't think that Jazmine and Ari, just the way that the music type of music that they make, I almost felt like her would have been a better fit, but they really both just...
That's interesting you say that. That's interesting you say that.
Just with the guitar chords, I think that's what really gives it for me. I think, even though she shows up a lot later in the listing, so it's fine, but initially when I heard this song, I was like, because when I was actually listening to it in my car the first time I heard it, and when I heard it, I was like, oh, this has to be the Her song. And I was like, I could have swore, though, Her was on the back end. But I was like, maybe I
might have thought that, too, actually. Because there was a lot of times where I was listening through the album knowing Her was going to come on. And I was like, oh, this sounds like a pocket that Her would kill.
Exactly.
Sure.
That's where...
But I think there's something to the vibe of On It, like it being also just like a super proud song, or just like... like, again, sexy or just out there, and it's definitely promiscuous. And I think Ari Lennox has more of that kind of catalog versus Her, I think, has not a serious delivery, but has a little bit more of a delicate kind of delivery that's a little bit more... Not to say she doesn't have the vocal chops, because Her can literally do anything. But in terms of like the content and the subject matter, I feel like this is something that I've seen Ari Lennox already dip into, you know what I mean? And Ari also has like, I love when Ari can layer like a beautiful, beautiful vocal track, and lots of the times like the theme or the hook will be very playful. You know what I mean? What like after hearing her deliver a beautiful run, lots of the time, whether it's like these like cute like hooks, like even if it's Shea Butter Baby, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's where she really fits into this, you know what I mean? Because this is also the section where Jazmine Sullivan's getting into her bag. We're like, we're not just here to break down the word hoe, you feel me? We're also here to like empower ourselves and let ourselves be promiscuous, and I think that's where like Ari, for me, she also represents that in R&B right now. You know what I mean? A girl who vocally is still there, like with everybody else. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Because I think like Summer Walker is also in that kind of vibe. But Summer Walker, in terms of her delivery, sounds more reminiscent of everybody else right now in this sound. Where I think Ari Lennox has like the playfulness of somebody who's in 2020, and she's very 2021. She's with the internet. She's hip, you know what I mean? But she has that old school sound, which is why I think it's a very perfect blend for Jazmine Sullivan. You know what I mean? To get a little hip, have that younger youth to it, but still just put on a clinic, man. These girls can sing, bro.
Yeah, they really can. They really can. It's absolutely amazing. Like, I love this project so much, and I love what you said too about how she's actually able to play off of the older, more nostalgic type of songs, like an On It, or like even like a little bit later in the listing. I really thought Lost One had a very nice nostalgic sound with those like psychedelic guitars. It was more of a ballad types of song. But then a lot earlier in the listing, she puts a song on this like Put It Down, which has like a little bit more of like a modern spin on hip hop R&B with like that higher tempo and just the synths and the 808s, and then how the hook's a little bit more of like a sing rap, like it has that more of that catchy, versatile kind of delivery from Jazmine. And again, like I love what you said too, because again, this comes right after. I love actually the part of this album that I like the most is like it was cool that Ari's Tale didn't come and then follow it with Ari Lennox's feature.
Yeah,
Ari Lennox's
yeah.
feature came later, a little bit like a track later, but in between that was Put It Down, and it fit Ari's Tale pretty well. Put It Down did because of the theme, because it was more about like someone, simply being for someone that they're there physically, you know what I mean, versus like
allowing
what else,
lust
everything else they
to
bring.
kind of
Exactly. Good
cloud
word
your
for it.
vision and or your
1000%.
your judgment.
Yeah. So I thought it was just very smart.
Put It Down
how
is
she did
also
that.
fire.
Fire. I love that song too. Yeah, I mean, I love a lot of these songs, and then Price Tags with Anderson .Paak, like he's one of my all-time favorite
Same,
artists.
dude.
It's
And that's
crazy.
why I was like, when you put a name like that on the track list, you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you know what you're doing. This is a like, like he's not the biggest superstar, but Anderson .Paak has a huge audience. And
he's pretty much a household name, I feel like, at this point. Close to it. As close
Close
as you can
to
be.
it.
Close to
to
you
it.
can be without being one. I think he is at
Right,
this point.
right, yeah. That's kind of as a high B list, a high B list. If that not to disrespect, what I mean, or take away or understate anything that Anderson .Paak's doing, because I had the same reaction where I'm like, not only am I looking forward to all three features, and the fact that she picked three features with such range and kind of depth to all of them, like they all make this kind of music, and they also are all on the top of their game right now. I'm looking
all in
forward
their
to it.
primes.
And the fact that Anderson .Paak fit perfectly, because I will say, I feel like I've heard other Anderson .Paak features that kind of fell short. And I can't come up with any of them at the top of my head, but I feel like I've heard Anderson .Paak kind of be inserted in certain tracks where they want to get the jazz feeling, right? Like they want to get the soul jazz lead vocalist, so they just put it in Anderson .Paak. And the delivery and his performance is always on point, but it doesn't always complement anybody else on the track. But this one just went perfectly. It went perfectly. I have nothing bad to say about this project. You feel me? I don't know.
Me neither.
It wasn't even lacking. I think the only thing I could possibly say is that like I would have been fine with a couple more tracks, but I absolutely love, and I think this with this album in particular, it works. I think other albums it doesn't work. When you can have an album kind of go on repeat. You know what I mean? And it kind of flows into each other, and then you actually give it a whole nother listen. This is one of those projects where that actually happened with me. And that happens with me usually when I put it on. Like, I can put it on repeat because it's only 30 minutes runtime, roughly. When it starts and loops again, I'm really perfectly fine with it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of artists go for that, but it doesn't usually translate. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of artists go for last song really flows back into the first song so you can have it on repeat. But when you have 45 minutes or a 50-minute project, it doesn't usually happen unless you're like a Kendrick Lamar, which I will literally repeat that project until I get every little thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But this one, I'm talking about whether you're going to do like some active listening or some passive listening. I can have this thing run back and feel like it's all just connecting seamlessly. You know what I mean? But the only thing I feel like if I could find one thing to kind of criticize this project for is that, like, you didn't have to just give me 30 minutes. I would have taken 45.
I almost, though, it kind of goes back to my earlier sentiment where I see your point, but I actually disagree. I think that this fits really well as a 32-minute album. And I honestly believe you could actually put out like a sequel to this, or you could do something where it's like you could go
Heaux
in
Tales 2 would be sick.
a different perspective, right? Or as more of a continuation, or like you could do it in like the male perspective versus the female perspective. Like there's a lot of things I think you could do from this, and it would just again continue to talk about, have these conversations and the narrative that she's going for, and I think that she does it in a way that is still entertaining but also enlightening at the same time. Like she doesn't really. There's nothing here where I feel like, and that's why I love the tightness of it. There's really nothing here where she's wasting any time, or there's a song here that doesn't fit the aesthetic or fit the theme. That whole point of it is why I think I love it so much. And I almost, like I said a little earlier, it feels longer than 32 minutes. I know it's only 32 minutes, but it doesn't feel that way to me when I listen to it.
32 with skits included, and which is just crazy.
Yeah, it really is. Like, that is really, for me, why I love it so much. And yeah, I'm a big fan of this Heaux Tales album for sure. If you had like 3 of your favorite songs from here, what would they be? Like, if you were to pick 3.
3 of my favorite songs. That's tough. Put It Down. That's tough, dude. That's tough. Also, I gotta say, Donna's Tale, I'm pretty sure was the one that I really loved. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but 3 songs would probably be Pick Up Your Feelings, On It, and see, now I wish I kind of went through it right before we got on, because I'm like kind of forgetting what the other side sounds like, but I remember being shocked by how much I liked the other side right before the album closed with the Her feature. Mm-hmm. I'll probably do those first 3 bangers that come up: Pick Up Your Feelings, Put It Down, and On It.
Cool.
But that's tough, you know what I mean? That's tough, because I remember Lost One, the other side, and Girls Like Me also being, you know what I mean? Like, there's a real...
Yep.
Whether it's because of the skits and how it flows or just the musicality of it, there feels like there's an act 1 and an act 2.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
really an act
I was
3,
kind of blown away with both.
I very much agree, actually, with Pick Up Your Feelings. That's definitely one of my favorites for sure. I actually really like Price Tags as well with Anderson .Paak. And then I'm definitely going to go with, I think I like Lost One, just for, again, the nostalgic psychedelic guitars that are on that, more of a ballad aspect of it. But it's hard for me to not like look at the Ari Lennox song. Or
now I'm hearing Lost One as you said that, and that was a banger.
Put it this way, I think there's a test. The fact how hard it is to pick one of these songs, is, I think, or 3 of them, I should say, is a testament to how amazing this album is. So huge props to Jazmine Sullivan for not only the musicality, but the theme, again, the features, the production, the vocal range, all of it, just the performances. I really, this is going to be a heavy rotation album for me in the first quarter of 2021, and we'll see where it sits at the mid-year and at the end of the year. But strong start.
Strong start. Sorry, not to cut you off.
You're good.
What kind of is even more insane is that she doesn't even consider this an album. She's come out and said that this is not an album. I'm pretty sure, even tweeted something like verbatim, "Don't call this an album, please." Like, something like, yeah. She just said it's not an album; it's an EP. You know what I mean? She feels like it's not a big enough body of work, or she didn't spend enough time, I guess, sitting with the project herself before she released it, for her to consider it an album in her catalog. Now, albums, EPs, just all the verbiage behind what a project is nowadays, that's all gotten very, very complicated. This feels like an album to me. It definitely runs like an album in terms of quality, is up there with an album. It's still only 30 minutes, so I guess it could fall towards more of an EP kind of side. But by her own words, she calls it an EP, which
interesting.
You know what I mean? I think so. I listening to the Joe Budden podcast. I don't want to steal this actual words, but they kind of summed it up really well. Rory, one of the hosts there, is just like, if this is your EP, what the hell do you have in store for an album? You know what I mean? Like,
because this is good. This is some good stuff. So big shout out to Jazmine Sullivan and everyone that worked on this project. Definitely, I think early out the gate, one of the best albums of 2021 so far.
100%.
And we'll see where it sits mid-year and at the end of the year. But we're going to take another very quick break. Hear another word from one of our local sponsors. But when we return, Phoenix and I are going to talk about what are we looking forward to in 2021. Who do we want albums from, or songs, music, Kendrick. Any of that good stuff. So, well, definitely Kendrick. But we'll be right back. Most artists know that studio time can be expensive and difficult to find, and while many artists are now making music in their homes through makeshift studios, your sound quality could still be missing something. That's where QNC Entertainment comes in. Right now, QNC is offering 3, 6, and 12-hour specials based on your sound engineering needs, as well as independent mixing and mastering services for the low price of just $40 per track. 2021 is a new year, and it's time you got the finished product your music deserves. Head to calendly.com/QNCENT to set up your first studio session today. And when filling out the inquiry on their website, make sure you put us, the Turntable Teachers, in the reference section of your application. Now, let's get back to the show. And welcome back. And we have the last segment of this episode. And we got, what are we looking forward to in 2021? Who do we want to drop? Phoenix, you mentioned Kendrick Lamar. Is he number one at this point?
I think he's totally number one. I think you know what's interesting is I'm a huge Kendrick stan, but I'm never somebody who likes to tweet at these artists or even has the mindset of gotta give me the music, gotta give me the music, gotta give me the music. You know what I mean? I'm somebody who has those thoughts, but massively represses them. And I try to you know what I mean? Because in my head, I also, with every Kendrick album, with every superstar album, whether it's a Cole or a Drake, those are, superstars that have high expectations and that I personally love a lot. So that means I have personally a lot of expectations to them. So I'd rather wait for an album that I'm very, very happy with versus, hearing something that sounds rushed. But I gotta say, dude, Kenny, Kung Fu Kenny, if you're out there listening, which would be ridiculous, go
You're
back
not,
in the
but
studio. Yeah, but I think just given the year we had, it's kind of just made me feel like if there's anybody I want to hear, or if there's any time I would actually put the responsibility of making music onto an artist as a requirement, it would be Kendrick Lamar in the climate of 2020. You know what I mean? Or post climate of 2020. And because I'd take it now, it'd still be just as happy, but it feels like he almost missed a certain window of time that would have made an album of his that had any kind of commentary on it be super, super legendary, honestly, and I don't even think that's an overstatement just in terms of who Kendrick is, you know what I mean? Because he's delivered these kinds of projects before. And when To Pimp a Butterfly came out around the time of Ferguson and all of the police brutality that was happening, that's part of the reason why that album has gone down, or, has been so critically acclaimed, not only because of its musicality, but in the context of where we were when that album dropped. So I also felt like 2020 would have been a good time to kind of maybe give us one of those things, because he was doing damn with his whole really kind of leaning into the I'm a hip hop superstar and I can rap over commercial Boy Wonder, Hit Boy type beats, Mike Dean type beats, and I think that was amazing, because I think every rap star should have that phase, right? I think it's just a kind of cool way to reinvent yourself when you're somebody who's typically a little bit more humble, or not very flashy. Kind of took his run to talk his talk, you feel me, and be a major superstar. But I think 2020 would have been a great time to kind of get back in that To Pimp a Butterfly, you know what I mean, critical, analytical realm, and I think he would have done that really well. So this is the only time where I've ever felt dang, now I want him, I need him to drop it. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like I'm losing out on him not dropping, where usually my attitude is the more you wait, the better it'll be.
Well, you bring up a great point. I think he missed an opportunity here in 2020, and I really do. I'm curious as to why he didn't drop in 2020, because very early on in the year of last year, the notion was that he was going to drop in 2020, because it's been almost 4 years since we've heard a Kendrick Lamar album.
Yeah, now it's been 4 years almost, and
been
usually it's a 3
time.
to 4 year cycle though.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
now
yeah.
it's a long 4 years. It's felt like.
Though no, because it was only a 2-year difference, I think, between To Pimp a Butterfly and Damn. I believe Damn was
Pimp a Butterfly and Damn.
right, because I'm pretty sure Butterfly was 2015 and Damn was 17. Am I wrong about that? 14, 16, 15, 17. It was something like that.
You know, I'm gonna fact check you right now. You got
Fact check
2015 on TPAB,
Okay.
and I think you're right. I think 2017 on 2017.
On Damn.
Yeah, so that was only 2 years in between that one.
It's only 2 years, and then I think Good Kid, Mad City was 12, so there was only a 3-year difference between that
Yeah.
and To Pimp a Butterfly. So this will be like his longest gap between albums.
Yeah.
Right. Really since Section 80, because Section 80 was like 11. So
Yeah.
really, or 10, whatever it was. So this is definitely his longest gap. And I was hearing at the beginning of the last year, I don't know if you heard the same, but he was going for like a rock inspired.
Yep,
type of
I heard
album.
that. Yeah.
I don't know if that still rings true. I don't know if he scrapped that. He's going to do something else. Who knows? Like he's been.
You heard
very
any of his
quiet.
leaks?
No, I haven't heard anything.
Oh, dude. I mean, there's some leaks out there that kind of, I think, support the fact that he's definitely, it seems like he's dabbling in rock. But off of the leaks, I wouldn't even say it's rockish. There's definitely a lot of just guitar incorporation and rockish kind of drums, which I guess is like, yeah, that's rock. But it's still very, very, very hip hop. If anything, it's psychedelic, and at least in terms of the leaks that I've heard. And they were actually really good. There was some leaks with Baby Keem that were out there, and again,
That's his cousin, isn't it? Aren't they cousins?
What was that?
I think it's
Yeah,
his
they are
younger
cousins.
cousin.
Yep. Yeah, they are cousins. And I don't even usually listen to leaks a lot because I find they can be really disappointing.
Yeah.
But I've been waiting and fiending for this Kendrick Lamar so bad, so I let myself have it. And there's 3 leaks that are out there right now. One with Baby Keem, 2 by himself, that sound honestly really, really sick. So I thought with those leaks floating around that the music was going to inevitably follow up soon, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, so he's probably at the top of my list too for 2021. Like if we don't get a Kendrick project, I'll definitely be disappointed to say the least.
That'll be 5 years, dude. That'll be 5 years, which would be crazy.
If he goes all 2021 without releasing anything, yeah, that'd be
Or I guess that would be the 4 years finishing and then going on to the 5th year
Going
of
on to
like
the 5th year.
Where's the music, dude? That's crazy. I think the reason why the gap though between Good Kid, Mad City, and To Pimp a Butterfly felt so large is because with Good Kid, like it was kind of like I feel like that's where he really solidified himself and kind of had his coming out party.
Totally.
He really emerged, and I think very, very rarely do you see an artist kind of hit the scene like that and then just shut up and disappear. And then to follow up with something as abstract and out of the box as To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah.
It felt crazy. And I think even with the 2-year gap from To Pimp a Butterfly and Damn, the thing that can make those time periods feel even longer is that he's so quiet. Like, you don't hear of Kendrick Lamar while he's not making music.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that makes that last longer.
Exactly. That's in essence why I'm so kind of just waiting and hoping we get something from him. So we'll see. I mean, I definitely agree with you there. I am very, very curious to hear this Drake Certified Lover Boy album. That is really because I've said this for so long, and everyone thinks I'm crazy saying this. Hopefully, I don't know where you're going to sit with this. Hopefully, you don't think I'm crazy too. I want Drake to do an R&B album, just strictly an R&B album. I would love.
Who thinks you're crazy for that?
People think I'm nuts for saying that. I have friends that are like, you're insane if you don't want Drake to rap.
You're talking to the backpackers, man. that's why
apparently.
you're talking to the backpackers.
I want him to do an R&B album, and I have a funny feeling this Certified Lover Boy is going to maybe be it, and I'm very excited for it. And I'm not like the biggest Drake stan. I just want to put that out there. Like, I do love Drake, like just as much as anybody, but I'm not like one of those people that's like fiending for Drake. Like when it comes to like, you know, the big 3, we'll call them, with Kendrick, Cole, and Drake. It's Kendrick and Cole first for me, and then Drake, just because Drake has put out stuff I've questioned and haven't like always loved. And not to say that Cole hasn't had his misses as well. Kendrick, I feel like, is the only one that has basically for me, like no misses.
I know
in
that's
terms of
right. Yo,
projects.
me too. Yo, we are such a clear bias because I think generally, honestly, J. Cole has a little bit more household or just casual listener kind of appeal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
obviously, so does Drake. Drake is the
Drake,
king
of course.
the king of the pop rap right now. But I just think
been
it's funny
for
that we
10
have an
years.
agreement where it's like, oh, but Kendrick Lamar is the only one with a literal flawless catalog, and I'm sure there's other people out there who disagree.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's individual songs on Kendrick Lamar albums I don't like love, but I mean, in terms of full projects, hell yeah. Like there were certain projects with Drake where I would be like, meh, I don't know, I'd liked half of it, not loved it. Like for me, like, and other people think I'm crazy too for saying this, but nothing was the same. I thought there were a lot of songs on that I did not like especially like the more trap inspired ones that he was definitely going for just like a chart topping song. Like,
Oh yeah, you're
again,
crazy.
I don't. Maybe I am. There's songs on there like I love the intro. The intro to that is one of my all-time favorite Drake songs. Stupid good, where he's completely going through the three different beat switches. It's insane.
Yeah.
The song Too Much with Sampha is just fucking incredible. But there's nothing there that like kept me coming back enough. Like there's songs like Connect and what was that, 305 to My City, like shit like that. Oh, and then Started from the Bottom. I always hated that song. So I feel like
Yeah.
yeah.
You know that one is there's definitely a lot of his radio stuff. You know, like Just Hold On, We're Going Home. Wow, I forgot about that. Like Just Hold On, We're Going Home. Like that. Definitely, he's doing a lot of his radio stuff. But I feel like that for every song that is a radio hit, there seems like there's another song that's like introspective and lyrical.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't hate Nothing Was the Same. I just think it's a little overrated. That's where I sit with it. Like, I'm a big Take Care guy. Like when it comes to Drake, like I really loved Take Care, and I actually really enjoyed Views. I know that. I mean, there were some songs. Again, it was very similar. There was some on the back end that I could have done it without. But most part, I liked Views probably a little bit more. I remember listening to it a little bit more than Nothing Was the Same front to back in terms of. I think
interesting.
Yeah, Nothing Was the Same. For me, definitely had. I mean, there were good songs, and Nothing Was the Same. Like,
Yeah.
let's not get it twisted. Let's not act like it was a bad album because it wasn't a bad album. But I don't think Drake or Jay, like none of them have a bad album, right? But even like even for Cole,
How'd you feel about
like,
Scorpion? Sorry, you were gonna transition to Cole, but since we were talking about Certified
I'm glad you
Lover
asked.
Boy and Drake, how'd you feel about his or Dark Lane demo tapes?
Dark Lane demo tapes was fine. I wasn't. None of it made my top 20 of 2020 or anything like that, or anything for top stuff. And I definitely. I mean, put it this way. Laugh Now, Cry Later was an honorable mention for me this year. So again, it's not that I don't dislike Drake. Put it that way. Like
right.
I do like Drake. Put it that way. Like let's be clear on that. Scorpion was okay. I don't remember now. Like I don't remember like coming back to it a ton. To be quite honest, I think it was a little oversaturated at the time.
Me too. I kind of liked it a lot when it released, and then I found myself it lacking in replayability for the most part.
Very much so.
In terms of
Very
the
much
whole
so.
in terms of the whole project. There were the certified hits on there and certified deep cuts. Like Jaded to me is actually one of Drake's
really
best
good.
tracks and R&B
Really
tracks. But it's that is within what, like a 25 song project. You know what I mean?
It was a double disc, right?
Right. And I wish he would have committed more. I wish he would have committed more, because on paper that sounds amazing, right? Like everybody kind of wants Drake to find, especially since he's been able to kind of keep one foot in both. Everybody wants Drake. Everybody wants to hear a concise, focused side of Drake. Whether you're the side that wants, because I'm on both. I want a rap album, but I also want a pure R&B album. But I think overall, what I want him to do is commit to one of the sounds, because I find that even though I love that he can bounce from sound to sound, and if he does that well, then it'll be an amazing album. But I think some of the parts is when you're a rap fan and he only gets into it for 2 or 3 tracks. You feel like it's kind of lacking, and if you're an R&B fan and he only kind of does the R&B thing for 2 or 3 tracks, then it kind of feels like, oh, you just want a little bit more of that. So
right.
I think we all want, an exclusive sound to one of his next projects. And I wouldn't be mad whether it was rap or R&B, but I totally would love an R&B, even though I'm primarily a hip hop fan and a rap fan. And in terms of Drake, I actually like his rapping more than I like his R&B, but I think he does R&B at a high level, honestly, as a rapper. So I'd be happy with both. I think that's interesting that you're around people who are telling you you're crazy. Dude, you got to get around. You gotta get around some different dudes or get around girls. Like, I don't know, because people don't want an R&B Drake album.
I want an R&B Drake album. I've wanted that since Take Care. There were certain songs on that I really enjoyed. Like for example, Marvin's Room is one of my all-time favorite Drake songs. So like that for me, like if I had a Marvin's Room inspired album from Drake, that's why I would really love that. So I don't know. We'll see what Certified Lover Boy sounds like. Just off the title, though, it gives off that it's going to be more soulful R&B in nature. But I could be wrong. I'm hoping that this is where he finally does that for me and goes in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be shocking if Certified Lover Boy was his rap project. That would be wow. That would be out of left field.
And that is why I think I'm so excited for this one, and why all last year I was really hoping that it would come out. But hey, whatever. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Marvin's Room is also Drake's biggest hit, which I think is so nuts. And if this is off of a Google search I've even done right now, Drake's biggest hits. But like it's definitely one of his biggest Billboard hits. I know that for sure. And I just think that just for me goes to show like I think like that is like the thesis of like how crazy of an artist Drake is to have a song like Marvin's Room be a Billboard track. And like that is like R&B moody rap song. Like it's a hybrid of both because he has dope verses in there, but it's also singing. I digress. We can move on from now, but I'm definitely interested in an R&B. Like, give me the full commitment to the sad boy. You know what I mean? I think that's where Scorpion and Dark Lane demo tapes and some of his other projects are lacking. Is that like
that focus?
That focus and the commitment to one side or the other, even though we've loved for so long that you can be a hybrid. But let's stop talking about Drake. Let's back to Cole. You were saying about the fall off. Did you see that little thing he put on Instagram with the notes?
I did. I did.
So it looks like there's going to be the fall off and the off season.
Yeah. So which leads me to believe that. Originally that the fall off was supposed to be his last, but now it sounds like he's going to do something else as well.
Right.
And I'm interested because that's why I said I don't know if the fall off is going to come first or if something else is going to come now and before it. Like, is the fall off now going to be the last Cole album? I'm not sure.
Right. In terms of order, I'm not sure, but he's always kind of hypothesized about doing the off season tape. And even Fall Off kind of connects thematically to his other mixtapes of Bright Lights, Friday Night Lights, and Sideline Story, kind of the whole like, I'm an athlete on the bench kind of thing. And
ready to go. Yeah.
Ready
for my time to shine.
Wish someone made a manual to how to get up off the sidelines. That's so fire. So I think it seems like for a while now, he just has been wanting to execute those ideas of like, that are still more thematically connected to kind of like sports. So I think off season and fall off, even though fall off seems more relevant to him as like an artist, I think we're going to get 2 more projects, but in terms of what order, who knows?
And he does have the sneaker coming out with Puma.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that's going to fit the whole kind of aesthetic of what he's going to maybe go for this year in terms of like you said with either the fall off or the off season. I mean, who knows? Like, people say they retire all the time. I mean, that's to stay in the sports realm. Conor McGregor. How many times has this dude friggin' retired? And he actually, as the night we're recording this, he has another fight tonight. Like, it's crazy. Like, I mean, and then people with how Logic quote unquote retired. Like, I don't know if I buy that either. I think in the next couple of years we might hear another Logic album. I don't know. That's just me. But
yeah,
that term retirement is so loose in these types of professions when it comes to being creative and things like that. You know what I mean? I just don't see why a retirement for Cole right now makes a ton of sense. But I don't know. He's become an older head at this point, which is pretty interesting to me. Like, he's
definitely an elder statesman.
Yeah, at this point in time, he is, right? He talked about that years ago with Oh my God, I'm so bad with names sometimes with some of these songs. What was that song where he came out with, and he was talking about how he feels like he was, it was Middle Child. That's what it was, where he, felt like he was somewhere in the middle. Now I almost feel like he's definitely on that back end where, he's really kind of becoming like the elder statesman. And, so I'm curious with Cole. Love to see if we get either of those projects this year. Because of the shoe, I feel like we're going to, because it's just going to be another way for him to promote both at the same time.
Definitely.
So,
I just saw something about Kyle Kuzma. I was like, tried to Google it right now, and all I'm getting is like actually articles from like last year. But I saw something recently on Instagram where I thought Kyle Kuzma was rocking his the Cole shoe.
Really?
Yeah, I think this might be like a part 2 because I know he's coming out with another shoe. But even as I look right now on Google, NBA players debut J. Cole's signature shoe, and this is in July of 2020. But I think he has. They're called like Dreamers.
The Dreamer, yeah.
RS Dreamer. I think there's a RS Dreamer 2 coming out.
Okay.
And I think Kyle Kuzma just got his hands on it, because he's in the NBA.
Yeah.
But I totally feel like Cole is there. Kind of the same reason why we also have, obviously, like you're saying, the big three. They're not only still the biggest 3 artists now, but they're getting to that point where they're becoming the OGs. You feel me? Like kind of like the the top 3 big brothers of everybody else. I still feel like Middle Child still feels very relevant in terms of the way that I can imagine that J. Cole would perceive himself of like still feeling like what J. Cole is 31, 32.
He's older than that. I think he's like 34.
Oh, he's 35.
35. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, that in context of a music career is pretty old, because you've been sustaining your or at least in hip hop, we'll say you've been sustaining success for a while now. But still, in the context of his life, he still feels very young, and he still seems to, he's obviously grabbing from a lot of traditional, old school hip hop sounds and stuff. So I can see why he's like, everybody's looking at me like I'm a big brother, but at the same time, I still perceive myself as somebody looking up to everybody before me. You know what I mean? And not feeling like you're quite the veteran just yet. Like, you know what I mean? I think is interesting. But dude, so we got all the obvious ones out the way. We got like, look at us. We're such a unique, crazy hot takes. We want J. Cole, Drake, and Kendrick Lamar to drop an album. Who are the sleepers, dude? Who are the sleepers? Don't tell me Frank Ocean, because obviously we all want Frank Ocean, and I was gonna say that. But let's. What are some of the smaller artists? Do you have any smaller artists that you're like, dang, dude, need the project?
Not smaller in the sense, but actually, this is going to be an interesting dynamic here. I so badly want a Brockhampton album this year. I really hope we get a Brockhampton project. I obviously haven't gotten one since Brockhampton came out with their 2019 album.
Iridescence their last one?
Iridescence was not their last one. They did Iridescence. That was right after Amir Van came. When Amir Van left was right around the Iridescence time. And then they came out with Ginger in 2019.
Ginger, yeah.
Which was that was more of like the response to like the turmoil with Amir and all that. Mm-hmm. And weirdly enough, the dynamic, the dichotomy here is I really am looking forward to an Amir Van project too, to see fully like where he goes from his EP that he dropped. Really sort of interested to see if because he's starting to make waves again. Like people are like after.
Are we allowed to say that? Are we allowed to say we like Amir?
I think it's fine because listen, like I'm not condoning anything like in his personal life that he did, and again, I put it this way, I was kind of ready to write him off until I heard his interview with Sway. Have you seen that interview?
I haven't. No.
Anyone that hasn't seen that.
I remember it circulating though.
Yeah, go back and listen to that interview. It humanizes him a little bit more, and you like again. I'm not giving him a pass. I'm not condoning for what he's done, but it sounds to me like he understands the error of his ways, and that he sounded very remorseful for them. He sounded like he had people around him supporting him to try to get him in the right direction. I mean, he went to a rehab. He went to like an outpatient mental health hospital from mental health and things like that, and trying to wrestle with some of the demons that he was dealing with. And
right.
I mean, and then his
By
project.
no means, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot there. I just know there's obviously tons of controversy surrounding his name.
Oh, for sure. No, and again, I'm not. I don't. It's hard because I don't want to fully like. I don't want it to seem like because I support his music, like, or fully support his music, that I'm supporting like, his actions. But I feel like it's kind of now becoming like, where does he go from here? You know what I mean? In terms of like, and again, nothing he did sounded like incredibly incriminating or egregious. It just sounded like he was kind of a major fucking asshole, really. Like, you know what I mean? He's an asshole to women. He wasn't a very good friend. Like, he made a ton of mistakes. There was a lot of demons that he was probably just going through, and he was a little younger. Again, I'm not like, I'm not condoning.
This is not to excuse or any of those actions, right? And I think one of the biggest things is that in the midst of cancel culture that we've created here,
right.
I think we oftentimes don't want to give people second chances, and I think like it's a complicated conversation because you want to be fragile, and it's also it's complex, or you want to be delicate because it is a fragile situation, and there are people who are affected. But I think something that we've lost and something that we could do more of, without being tolerant of negative behavior, is still giving people the chance to speak for themselves, or the chance to be judged one more time, even if our judgment was correct and this guy is an a-hole and deserves to be exiled. Because of the uncertainty surrounding it all, and because no one will ever really know what happens until there's the real evidence of what happens, I think it's healthy to like hear people out, or healthy to at least keep your eye on the situation. And in terms of artists, the biggest way that you can kind of get a read about where their head is digesting their art. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, it's weird. Like I said, he hasn't been canceled. I mean, he was for a little while. He came back, and people seem to be supporting him again. He definitely some of his singles have done fairly well in the last couple of months. I think he dropped one like late 2020 that did pretty well, and he just dropped one recently that I definitely enjoyed the aesthetic from, and I always just liked his voice. I liked the way he rapped. It's a little bit one dimensional, but in terms of he fit.
He
really
was
well,
the strongest rapper for sure. In my
rapper,
opinion, in
yes,
terms of like
rapper.
a traditional rapper.
Yes. I mean,
Kevin Abstract being the other
for
one.
For sure. I mean, artistically, I think that they've gone in a direction that they wouldn't have gone in without, or had they kept him. But having said that, I mean, I'm more of a, put it this way, I am much more of a Brockhampton fan than I am an Amir Van fan at this point. Like, I am more just interested to hear the Amir Van project and like where he kind of goes with his content, and like off of like a manual. Like, does he kind of just, because what I don't want him to do is completely like think, oh, I dropped a manual, I don't have to talk about it anymore. Like, I really want to hear a little bit more about his psyche, where he's at. Like, it's more of an intrigue with Amir Van than it is like I'm anticipating the album,
right? Or actively looking to support the album, right?
Exactly. With Brockhampton though, like, all right, it's been like them. I feel like they're interesting because I feel like for the last year they've been very quiet, and it's. I think because, though, a lot of ways they did drop a lot of music in 2019, especially Kevin Abstract, right, with Ginger and also his solo effort. So I'm definitely curious to see where they go from here, and really the next artist that again, as another one that I'm very much intrigued by. Again, had more of a quiet 2020, and it was Denzel Curry. Very interested to see what he does. And I'm pretty sure he even said as well, he's limited in terms of how many albums he's going to be releasing going forward. I think he said he's claiming he only has a few left, supposedly.
They all say that, man. They all say that.
I know. But so I'm definitely curious to see where Denzel goes, especially because he has said this too. He likes to do like a small project 1 year followed by another full length. So this year he did that little unlocked EP with Kenny Beats. So that kind of leads me to believe that he's probably going to drop like a full length. Where do you sit? Like, what are some hip hop albums that you're interested in hearing in 2021, or artists you hope drop music?
Yeah, I mean, I was putting you on the spot there, making you come up with these other artists, and then I realized, oh wait, maybe I'm not prepared. But no, I actually, as I looked through my library real quick, YBN Corday, or he's just Corday now. Actually, it's
Corday.
no YBN no more.
Corday. That's a good one.
I'm looking
Corday.
forward to. He's dropped a couple of singles. He was dropping a couple of singles here and there in 2020 that were dope. I liked. But I really loved his debut album. 2019, I think it came out. Yeah, 2019, Lost Boy. I really loved that project.
Really
dude.
good.
He to me sounds like the next, the Coles. The Coles.
Very
and
much
and
so.
the Kendricks.
Very much so.
So I'm totally looking for him to put out another full length project, honestly. And then somebody else I had real quick. Where was it? Maybe that's it for rap. There was one more artist I had, but I can definitely, if we want to transition now, maybe to outside of rap. Corday is somebody I'm looking forward to for sure, 100% in rap, because I love the lyrical flow kind of stuff. I think he's gonna be nice. Somebody I'm really looking forward to outside of rap is Daniel Caesar. I love Daniel Caesar, and I feel like I could really use another Daniel Caesar project. Even though I don't think it's been incredibly long. I think his last project was also in 2019.
I think it was, because he came out with the one where, oh my God, who worked on that one with him? John Mayer worked a lot on that.
Yeah. The Case Study 01 was 2019.
Yeah, I want to say.
So I'm totally ready for another Daniel Caesar project.
Daniel Caesar
and
for
I'm
sure.
also really ready for another Sir project.
Sir would be, that would be another one that I definitely would want, especially in R&B. Another actually, just get real quick in hip hop. I want another Slow Tie album. He's another guy.
I've actually been listening to Slow Tie recently. It's funny you say that.
He's another one that I really want to hear in 21. He's an artist that I've really really enjoyed. And then actually another TDE artist. I'll stay in the TDE since you said Sir. I want another SZA project. Because Control.
Well, that's been
incredible.
coming, right? That's like, we're hoping that's on its way.
I hope so. Yeah.
Those last two tracks, I mean, Hit Different was a banger that she came out of nowhere with.
Hit Different.
And then this Good Days project is an absolute banger. And the Good Days track, Good Days single, that has been a banger. And Hit Different was also, both of these tracks have recently been followed up with music videos too. So it seems like she's on track to release.
And then another one too, I hope releases this year in terms of staying in the R&B side is Georgia Smith.
That's wild. Actually, that's so interesting. I have not thought of Georgia Smith in forever.
Georgia Smith would be
amazing
another
talent.
artist that I'm really looking forward to. And then the last one, I'll say, or actually I'll have two more that I want albums from this year. John Bellion would be another artist that I want to drop this year. He's been very quiet in 2020. He really was very, very quiet. He was actually one of the last concerts I saw before everything kind of shut down. I saw him 2 summers ago, and he dropped Glory Sound Prep in 2018. So I'm very curious to see if he drops anything this year. That'd be like about going on 3 years. And then the final artist that I'm very much looking forward to drops, hopefully again, this was maybe won't happen this year, but I would love a Gary Clark Jr. project as well.
I'm not familiar with Gary Clark.
Gary, one of the best guitarists out right now, in my opinion, like modern guitarists. He's absolutely incredible. If anyone hasn't heard his This Land album from 2019, it was one of my favorite albums of 2019. It was definitely on my list. I believe it was like in the top 10. Definitely an incredible album. Oh, and then the last one. Oh my God, I don't know how I'm forgetting these guys. Emotional Oranges.
Oh, Emotional Oranges goes hard.
That's another one that I really hope that they drop. Would be Emotional Oranges. So
I can also sneak in a couple more here now that I'm able to look at my library. Alex Isley. Alex Isley.
Okay.
She would be dope. She's been releasing a lot of stuff with Jack Dine or Jack Dean. I don't know how to pronounce his name specifically, but they've been putting out these. I think I sent you maybe one of their tracks, but
Okay.
they've been putting out these tracks together that have been fire. And Alex Isley, I feel like, is somebody that in terms of R&B has been around for a couple years, and I had heard of her probably about 2 years ago and thought she was amazing and thought she was gonna go places, and then it's kind of been quiet for her. And in 2020 she put out these other singles with Jack Dean, excuse me, I don't know how to pronounce it, but they were fire. Oh, and this reminds me now of another R&B artist, but I'd like to hear Alex Isley. I'd like to hear I'm also double checking because sometimes artists drop stuff and you don't even realize. But
I know, right?
Mahalia, you know Mahalia?
I don't. I know.
Oh,
I gotta get hip.
Big banger music.
Okay.
And she had a really big 2019. And then I feel like it's been kind of slow. It was kind of slow in 2020, but everything was kind of slow in 2020. But 2019, she had her Love and Compromise album, which was fire, and that had a banger track with LMA. But I kind of like the singles that she has more. That were kind of a little bit before and post that album. But Mahalia, she's also British. She makes some fire R&B music, so I'd love another full-length project from her. And also, the project she put out in 2019 kind of sounded like, oh, you're Indian, just kind of coming up. You know what I mean? She had an LMA feature when LMA was like on fire. But it had that rough around the edges kind of sound, like, oh, you're still finding your sound. You can tell it's like you have your sound, and then there's also the sound that maybe the label wants you to go with. Like, I want to hear a 2021 project from Mahalia where she's like sitting in her pocket, because she makes banger music.
Yeah, definitely send me that, because I definitely want to check her out.
Gotcha.
And then the last one, actually, for me, would be Ryan Caraveo, who supposedly has another album coming in 21 as well. That just recently announced that he has new music coming soon. So I'm curious to see where he takes it from his where he follows up from Butterfly Boy, which was my number one album in 2019. Actually, do you know Ryan Caraveo?
No, I
don't. Are you
don't.
familiar? All right, I'll have to get you hip on him. So he's another artist that has, again, he's more indie pop, indie alternative, some hip hop as well, but definitely a guy that I'm really intrigued by. Old fans of the show know that I was huge on him in 2019. So he had, again, his Butterfly Boy album was my number one from 2019. So those are again, and then, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be other artists that I'm going to come on to this year. I mean, there's a new artist I'm very intrigued by, Red Veil, that I've been listening to this year.
Red Veil is funny, yeah.
Really good. So hopefully there's an album attached to his new single he just came out. It was like How to Find Hope or something like that. I was big into that. Gave me like an Odd Future, Earl Sweatshirt type feel.
Definitely.
Earl Sweatshirt would be another one too that
I was just going to say Earl Sweatshirt. And it kind of, I think, kind of loose or ties it all together, because we were just talking about how much MF Doom was clearly influential for Earl Sweatshirt and Tyler the Creator. Tyler the Creator has been going crazy, and when I saw those videos circulate, you know, of Earl and Tyler reacting, or from like the old video of them meeting MF Doom, it made me think, like, dude, where's Earl been? Like, Earl is such, I think, honestly, like one of the top 5 lyricists of our generation.
Oh yeah, incredible, man. Oh my god.
But
so
Feet
good.
of Clay and some rap songs are
songs.
Those are those last 2 projects he had. You know, some rap songs was super abstract and unmixed and real rough around the edges, and everybody remembers that. And then he followed it up with something even more unmixed and rough around the edges with Feet of Clay. Even though I loved the album cover to Feet of Clay, it was super scary and like weirdly dark. Yeah. But I thought there was gonna be more, you know, audible rapping. Like,
there was really no substance on that it wasn't even an album. It was like a really short, like 15-minute EP.
Yeah.
And some rap songs was really short.
It sounded like he like kind of gave himself as many limitations as possible in terms of creating the music, and then was like, all right, you know, this is to kind of re-emulate the SoundCloud or like Stuck in Your Room kind of music, you know what I mean? But you don't need to do that. I think you can get that style off and convey it accurately without actually not mixing because of
1,000%.
that. That's
Yeah.
what a lot of it sounds like. But obviously, there's an aesthetic to that. There's a style to that I'm not surprised that Earl likes to dabble in, and the rest of his music has that kind of aesthetic as well because it's grungier, dirtier, kind of underground stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I need another. Hey man, like 2021 and the time of Corona would be a perfect time to make a I don't like shit, I don't go outside part two.
Two.
You know what I mean? I need something.
I was
like
thinking that too,
bro.
I was thinking that too. Yeah, man, that would be amazing. And yeah, like, I'm super thrilled to see what we end up hearing in 2021. But yeah, man, I think
One
that's
last artist. Sorry,
go for
know
it.
You're
Yes,
about to
one
wrap
last.
it up, my brother. But one last artist who I love so much, and I was kind of disappointed with their last effort, is Mick Jenkins.
Good
Mick Jenkins.
choice.
I love Mick Jenkins. I've been on the Mick Jenkins train for so long.
The Waters, baby.
Oh my God, the Waters, Waves, even Healing Component, which I thought was
Pretty good.
Where I think that's where I think his catalog starts to dip a little bit, but Healing Component was still good. But I wasn't that big of a fan of Pieces of a Man, which was in 2018 that followed the Healing Component. And The Circus was and that was dropped in 2020. But that was very forgettable for me. Very forgettable, which I think is really sad because it sounds like he doesn't know exactly where he wants to keep his sound.
He's a little bit
and you can only
confused.
imagine that comes from like the influence of the industry. You know what I mean? Because it's just as he's gotten larger, I think he's left from his signature sound. Or you don't even necessarily have to be stagnant like that, right? Like I want to see artists change, but it has not been hit in the same way. And I know he dropped in 2020. But I want to say that was an early 2020 drop. Like I think
It
that
was
like
very
a beginning
early.
of 2020 drop. So
It was.
If he came back again with in 2021, even with an EP or mixtape, I just feel like I've been missing him, man. Right? Like I don't know about you, but I love him so much, and I haven't been listening to his new stuff.
If he would get back in the pocket of
Yeah.
Waves or The Waters, or even earlier than that, Trees and Truths, like I would
Yeah.
love that Mick Jenkins again. That just very like indie, like more like stoner hip hop. Really, is what that that older stuff was. Very just like very much in the
like
that
the
sort of
stoner
aesthetic.
kind of boom bap. You know what I mean?
It was but I love his voice over that type of like smoother production. And there was a song that he actually was on recently. I have to find it. It was with oh my God, it's gonna bug me right now that I can't with Sadistic. I don't know if you know who Sadistic is. He dropped a song with Mick Jenkins and Zodiac. I'll send that to you. It's really good. Anyone that's listening to check that one out with Mick Jenkins. If he went back in that type of style of hip hop, that is what I would love to hear from him. So we'll see what happens, man. I mean, Mick Jenkins is again another artist. I'm glad you said that because Mick Jenkins is a guy that I really would hope drops something that I actually resonate with again in 21. So that's a lot of artists. I hope that we hear all those artists and more in 2021. But
I'm ending it, but we have to say Frank Ocean drop, man.
Frank Ocean.
You know what I mean? That's kind of a given, so I didn't want to open with that, but hey Frank, where are you? Come out, Frank.
We started with Kendrick. I mean, come on. At this point, let's, you know what, we'll start and end with the obvious ones: Kendrick and then Frank Ocean. Yeah, definitely Frank Ocean as well. But yeah, hopefully, man, we hear from all of these artists that we mentioned today and more. I'm excited to come on to even some new artists, whether they're local or even national. Like we said, no, we went with more of like the national scene things. But hey, man. Great episode. I'm really stoked that we're back hitting the ground running.
Dude, sick episode. This was super fun. Everybody go talk to us in those comments too, man. Go talk to us. Drop us. Who are you looking forward to? How'd you feel about Jazmine Sullivan? Are you still grieving MF Doom? Because I know we are.
Definitely.
Yeah, dude, this is awesome. Can't wait to do it again, my guy.
Yep. Well, we'll be back very soon. That Phoenix and I will be back on a more consistent rotation in 2021. I think we had some trial episodes in late 2020, and he will, like I said, Phoenix Rios is our brand new co-host. In case you didn't know, and he'll be joining us for all of these episodes that we do with when we're for our original content, where we're going to be talking about, again, pop culture, album reviews, kind of where this podcast started is where we'll be headed. Tune in next week for another guest speaker episode. I will not give away who that guest speaker is, but I will let you know that it is a great one. You definitely don't want to miss next week's episode with our guest coming in. And so, yeah. But and then stay tuned for more content from us coming soon. Follow us at Turntable Teachers on Instagram, TikTok. We're actually on Facebook as well if you're a Facebook user. And, of course, hit up our website, www.turntableteachers.com, for all the latest. Subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast streaming services. And like Phoenix said, drop us a comment on anything that we talked about today. We'd love to hear from you guys. And we'll be back with more very soon. So until next time, I'm Mike.
I'm Phoenix.
We're the Turntable Teachers, and class is officially dismissed.
Turn.